We need to focus on the kids who are actually part of this family. That's what my father told me, days after standing on stage with his new wife and their picture-perfect children, while I sat in the back row watching a slideshow that cropped me out of our family photos. He looked me in the eye and erased me. Officially. He said it so calmly, like I was a mistake they were finally correcting. And that was the day I realized I wasn't just unwanted. I was removed. I'm Jessica Harper. I always knew I wasn't Gary's favorite, but I didn't know he was saving that spot for a family that didn't include me at all. When my mom died, I was 2. I don't remember her voice, her laugh, or the way she held me. All I had was a father who showed up in body, but never in spirit. Gary raised me like I was a favor he regretted. My meals made by my grandparents, my birthdays remembered by teachers, not him. He provided a roof and silence, nothing more. Still, I held on, thinking maybe that was just how grief looked on him. Then came Kendra. Kendra arrived like a movie mom, bright sundresses, fresh-baked lies, and a daughter named Madison who looked like she belonged in a Hallmark catalog. I was 13 when she moved in, and for a moment, I let myself hope. Maybe a new wife would mean a warmer home. Maybe a new sister would mean I wasn't alone. I was wrong. 2 years later, Kendra gave birth to Ryan, a boy. The heir, apparently. And just like that, I became background noise. I stopped being called Jess and started being referred to as her. I wasn't invited to their Sunday brunches, wasn't in the Christmas cards, wasn't even asked what I wanted for dinner. I started noticing little things. Family pictures on the wall that didn't include me. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. Conversations that hushed when I entered the room. But nothing prepared me for the fall festival. Gary was being honored as Community Father of the Year. I sat in the back of the town hall while Kendra smiled beside him, Madison and Ryan beaming on either side. Then came the slideshow, dozens of pictures of Gary and his family. I wasn't in a single one, not even baby photos. In one picture I was in, my face had been cropped out. Only Madison's pink dress remained beside Gary's arm. Under it, a caption. Our perfect start, finally whole. People noticed. My friends, my teachers. One of them leaned over and whispered, "Did they forget you?" I wanted to laugh. No, I wasn't forgotten. I was deliberately erased. 3 days later, Gary sat me down in the kitchen and said, "We need to focus on the kids who are actually part of this family." He used that voice, the one managers use to fire someone without getting sued. Told me I'd be moving in with my grandparents, for a while, just to give Kendra some space. By the weekend, my phone plan was canceled. Family Netflix? Logged. Out. Group chat? Gone. I wasn't just unwanted. I was officially removed. The day I moved into my grandparents' house, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just carried my garbage bag of clothes into the spare room, sat on the bed, and stared at the ceiling like I was waiting to wake up from a bad dream. But this wasn't a nightmare. This was the new reality Gary built for me. One where I no longer existed. Their house was quiet, safe, but it wasn't home. It smelled like cinnamon and mothballs, and the floorboards sighed when you walked. My grandparents were kind, but they were tired. They had raised their daughter, my mother. They hadn't signed up to raise her orphan. So I got a job. Nights at the Waffle House, balancing greasy plates and even greasier comments from truckers, then dragging myself to school by morning. No car, no rides. Just a rusted-out bike, frozen fingers, and the quiet understanding that no one was coming to rescue me. Gary never called. Not once. No birthday text. No how's school. Not even a Christmas card. Madison and Ryan? They didn't ask about me either. I heard from a cousin that Kendra told people I had behavioral issues. At a family gathering, I wasn't Invited to, she laughed and called me Gary's first mistake. It didn't hurt the way it used to. It burned colder, deeper, like frostbite. I stopped looking for warmth where there was none. When I got accepted into a state university, it should have been a moment of triumph. But all I felt was dread. I needed a co-signer for my student loan. My grandparents couldn't. So, against my better judgment, I called Gary. I still remember his voice on the other end. Tight, clipped, formal, like a stranger. He said they were struggling to save for Madison and Ryan's future and couldn't take on more financial risk. More risk, that's what I was to him. I was ready to give up until Uncle Barry, my mom's quiet, oddball cousin, stepped in. No big speech, just a signature, a shrug, and a line I'll never forget. You owe nothing to anyone who made you feel small. That night I stared at the ceiling again. But this time, I didn't feel helpless. I felt steel forming in my spine. I made myself a promise. I will build my future brick by brick, and I will never beg again. They say success is the best revenge. I disagree. Success is the silence before the reckoning, and I had built my silence well. I started at the bottom, data entry at a tech company that didn't even spell my name right on the ID badge. I smiled through every condescending training session, every smug supervisor, every late night with vending machine dinners and eyes burning from code tutorials on YouTube. I didn't complain. I upgraded my skills, rebuilt my resume every 6 months, and kept my mouth shut while I learned how power actually moves behind the curtain. By 31, I wasn't the intern fetching coffee. I was director of design at a firm whose software ran behind the scenes of 3 Fortune 500 companies. My office was sleek and glass-walled, and the sunlight caught the metallic edges of awards I'd never bother posting about. I never shared my wins. Not on social media. Not with classmates. Especially not with family. My success was sacred. Mine alone. Then a box showed up. Brown, weathered, taped 3 times over. From Uncle Barry. Inside, my mother's handwriting, faded letters, and a truth that burned through my bones. There were life insurance documents I'd never seen. She had left me a small trust fund, enough to cover my college tuition. It was cashed out by Gary 2 months after her funeral. The listed reason? Emergency expenses. Emergency expenses. Try Kendra's engagement ring, or Madison's private school, or the down payment on their second car. He didn't just abandon me. He stole from the future my mother died trying to protect. I stared at those documents for hours. Not crying, not shaking, just cold. There was power in that moment. The moment you realized the villain in your life finally handed you the sword. Told no one. Not yet. I just kept working, climbing, stacking every success like a brick wall between me and the people who made me feel like I didn't belong. Then came the promotion. Director. Only the second woman under 35 to hold that title at my firm. I told Uncle Barry over coffee as a thank you for the loan, the box, the quiet loyalty. He smiled, clapped my shoulder, and mentioned it offhandedly at a family wedding. 1 week later, there was a knock at my door. Gary and Kendra, smiling, and I knew, without a word, that they weren't here to apologize. When I opened the door and saw them standing there, Gary in his stiff buttoned shirt, Kendra wrapped in fake pearls and faux warmth, I did something I hadn't done in 17 years. I hesitated. There was a flicker, deep in my gut, a voice that whispered maybe they've changed. Maybe they were here to finally say the words they'd withheld for nearly 2 decades. We were wrong. We're sorry. But no. That wasn't why they came. That flicker was crushed the moment Gary stepped into my house like he still owned it. He scanned the place like it was a showroom and smirked. We heard you're doing well. Madison's starting nursing school, and Ryan's looking at colleges. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't congratulate me. Just business, right from the jump. Kendra sat down without asking and crossed her legs like she'd done me the favor of gracing my couch. Then came the pitch. "You've always wanted to be part of the family," Kendra said, smiling like a Stepford snake. "Here's your chance to show it." Gary nodded along, solemn. "We sacrificed a lot raising you. We just thought maybe now it's your turn to give back." I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at them, their rehearsed concern, their crocodile tears, and felt that familiar chill settle over me. The one that had kept me warm while walking alone to school in the snow. The one that reminded me I survived without them. I stood, walked to the cabinet, and pulled out a plain manila folder. I let it thud onto the coffee table between us. Inside, copies of the trust fund documents, my mother's letters, my stolen future. Gary's jaw twitched when he saw his own signature on the liquidation form. Kendra's smile wavered. "I already paid for college once," I said quietly. "You just didn't let me use it." Their mouths opened, but I didn't give them time. "You chose who mattered. You erased me from your pictures, your plans, your lives. Now you want a refund on your golden children and you think I'm the ATM?" I leaned forward, voice low but sharp. "You already stole my future once. You don't get another shot." Then I stood up, calm, final. "You chose your real family. Let them pay their real bills." And I opened the door. Not to welcome them in, but to make damn sure they left. The thing about monsters is they don't slink away when you shut the door on them. They circle. They stalk. They wait for darkness. After I threw them out, I thought maybe, that would be the end of it. But Kendra doesn't accept silence. She weaponizes it. The first shot was Facebook. A picture of her, Ryan, and Madison at some backyard barbecue, with a caption soaked in sugar and venom. "Some people forget who loved them first, but real family always sticks together." She didn't tag me, but she didn't have to. Ensa. Comments knew exactly who she meant. Then came the emails. Anonymous accounts accusing me of being heartless, ungrateful, mentally unstable. Screenshots from fake profiles using my name, my face, but twisted. Comments on design forums. Nasty messages on my company's socials. Quiet poison slipped into professional spaces I had fought to build. But the lowest blow came in the form of Madison. She messaged me late one night saying she wanted out, said Gary was controlling, Kendra was toxic, and she felt like she was suffocating. She'd seen what I made of myself, and she needed help. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. I still remembered Madison as the wide-eyed little girl who used to play dress-up in my hand-me-downs, and some part of me, some aching, bruised part, wanted to believe she was different. So I agreed to meet. We met at a quiet cafe. I ordered tea. Madison ordered nothing. Her eyes were wide, rehearsed. She fidgeted, kept glancing at her purse. And that's when I knew. I leaned forward, lowered my voice. "They're listening, aren't they?" She froze. Her mouth opened. No words, just guilt. I stood up and walked out. It was a setup. They'd hoped I'd say something emotional. Something they could twist, record, use against me. But I've lived in silence for years. I don't speak unless I choose to. The next morning, HR called me in. Someone had been contacting my employer, claiming I was unstable, vindictive, a threat to team cohesion. I didn't flinch. I just went home, installed cameras, locked everything down. That night, I looked out my window and saw Gary, parked across the street, engine off, lights off, watching. He wasn't just a deadbeat, dad anymore. He was a predator. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it walks on stage in a black dress, heels clicking like a countdown. The tech gala was everything it was supposed to be. Sleek lighting, soft jazz, and the sharp scent of money and ambition in the air. I was being honored for innovation and leadership. Director of design, trailblazer, rising force in the industry. I didn't bring a date. I didn't need one. My presence was enough. When the announcer called my name, I stepped toward the stage, calm and focused. I'd written my speech the night before, something short, humble, professional. But I never got to read it, because that's when the doors slammed open. Gasps rippled through the room like a dropped glass of wine. Heads turned. A woman's voice cried out, "Jessica, please!" Kendra. In a sequined mess of mascara and desperation, she charged down the aisle, dragging Gary behind her. He looked older now, grayer, but still wearing that smug, performative grief like a second skin. In his hand was a manila envelope. God knows what he'd printed, but it didn't matter. They didn't whisper. They didn't even plead. They performed. Kendra sobbed. "You can't do this to us. We're family." Gary raised his voice like he was addressing a board meeting. "This is what success does to people. She's forgotten who sacrificed for her." They didn't see the crowd recoil. They didn't hear the cameras clicking. But I did. I stepped up to the mic, adjusted it, and looked straight ahead. "You weren't at my high school graduation," I said, voice clear. "You told me I didn't belong in your family, that I was a burden. You blocked my number when I was 15 and cut me off like I was a bill you didn't feel like paying." Gasps again, but this time, at them. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. My truth was a blade sharpened by years of silence. "You stole my college fund," I said calmly. "You impersonated me online. You stalked my house. You slandered me at work." They froze. A few phones came out. A few execs stepped away from their tables. "You didn't come here for closure," I said. "You came here for money. But I'm not a bank. I'm not your guilt project. I'm not your redemption arc." I paused. "I'm the daughter you threw away." And that was when my team, my real people, stood. Clapping, not out of pity, but out of respect. Security approached. Gary tried to argue. Kendra begged. But they were escorted out under the cold, electric stare of 100 industry eyes. Later that night, a photo of me at the podium, unshaken and unapologetic, went viral on LinkedIn. The caption someone else had written? "You can't erase her now. They tried to break me. Instead, they built my legend." Justice doesn't always scream. Sometimes it arrives in the silence after the storm, when the damage is done, and all that's left is the rebuilding. The legal fallout hit like a hammer. Gary was officially charged with stalking and harassment. The restraining order was granted with barely a question asked. Turns out security footage and witness statements carry more weight than crocodile tears. The local news picked up the story. Not for me, I hadn't asked, but because public meltdowns at high-profile events tend to make headlines. The headline read, "Tech Director Speaks Out After Public Confrontation with Estranged Family." The word estranged never sounded so satisfying. Extended family members started cutting Gary off like he was contagious. The same ones who once shared Kendra's family barbecue photos were now condemning them online, trying to outrun the stink. Kendra? She filed for divorce a week later. Ryan and Madison, her golden heirs, were sent to live with her sister while the courts untangled the mess. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel pity either. Just distance. Beautiful. Cold. Distance. I sold the house. Too many memories in the corners. Too many shadows in the walls. I found a modern loft downtown. Concrete, open windows, sunlight slicing across white brick. Nothing clung to me there. It was fresh. Mine. A new chapter. With no footnotes from the past. And then, as I unpacked the last box, I saw it. A small envelope slipped between the tape. No return address, no markings, just my name, written in tight, familiar handwriting. Inside was a Polaroid, me and my mother. I was 2, sitting in her lap, beaming. She was looking at me like I was her entire world. Tucked behind the photo was a note, just a single line. You were always enough. Love doesn't leave you behind. No signature, no hint of where it came from. Maybe Uncle Barry, maybe Madison, trying to atone. Maybe no one I'll ever know. Maybe it was my mother, her voice echoing through time, through paper, through pain. I didn't cry. Not this time. I took the photo, pinned it above my new desk, and locked the door behind me. Not in fear, but in finality. Because the truth is, I didn't need closure. I just needed peace. Turns out I wasn't the one who needed to grow up. I just needed to grow away.